Hi everyone, this is book number 9 in Around the World in 50 Books, where I will be reading a book from different parts of the world that I pick randomly. And this week was Rwanda. I read We Wish to Inform You That Tomorrow We Will Be Killed with Our Families by Philip Gourevitch. As always, I will break down the video into the first part will be how I related to the country or the culture. The next part will be a brief history. I will then give my book review, and I will end with some fun facts about the country. So let's get started. Ways that I related. So this is a very Catholic country, so I found it really soothing to read about their revering of the Virgin Mary and those accounts, as that's something that's very big and part of my culture as well as a person who's Mexican and Catholic. Another thing that I was looking into their cuisine, and they have like this dish that's like fried fish, which reminded me of like fried like tilapia, I think it is, like in like a mojarra frita in Mexican cuisine. I'll show you guys a picture. And they also eat a lot of beans and potatoes, which kind of reminded me of Mexico as well. And the third thing would be that the jungles that are in Rwanda are so beautiful, and it reminded me a lot of the south of Mexico that has similar biodiversity. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the history. Rwanda had a rich history dating back centuries. In the pre-colonial era, Rwanda was inhabited by various ethnic groups, including the Hutus, the Tutsis, and the Twa. The Tutsis were primarily pastoralist and exerted political and social control over the Hutus, who were more of a majority, and they were farmers. So they had, they were perceived as people with lower social classes than the Tutsis. And during colonization in the 19th century, Rwanda was colonized by Germany and later by Belgium after World War I. During this period, the Belgians really exploited this ethnic diversity, and they created this ethnic division by favoring the Tutsis and making sure that they planted practices in place to discriminate against the Hutus and the Twa. They introduced ethnic identification through identity cards, which really heightened the tensions. They also introduced these ideas that if you had certain characteristics, you were definitely, either a Tutsi or a Hutu, which was completely bogus, but they introduced that again to make sure that there was a division within the ethnic groups in the country. So in the 1950s and the 1960s, Rwanda experienced significant social and political upheaval marked by tensions between the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority. This tension culminated in outbreaks of violence, including the 1959 Rwandan Revolution, during which many Tutsis were killed, displaced, and forced into exile. So now for independence, following Rwanda's independence from Belgium in 1962, Hutu politicians came to power and instituted policies that marginalized the Tutsis, further fueling these ethnic tensions. Many Tutsis fled the country to escape persecution and violence, seeking refuge in neighboring countries such as Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Among those who fled were Tutsi exiles who formed armed resistance movements such as the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the RPF, which aimed to overthrow the Hutu-dominated government in Rwanda and secure the rights of Tutsis and other marginalized groups. So like I explained, after Rwanda gained its independence from Belgium, the Hutu majority take political power and really start to retaliate against what they perceived was the Tutsis' control over them for many years. The horrific killings and SA were carried out throughout the country in different villages. So Major General Juvenal Habya Rimana takes control in a military coup, ruling as president in 1973 up until his assassination in 1994. The book really talks about how he really used him and his people really used the radios to lobby for everyone who was a Hutu to go out and use machetes and use guns to really like to go out and kill and SA Tutsis, and it was horrific, and they made sure that to push the agenda that anybody that didn't comply would be killed as well. So this led, to many killings during that time period up until 1993. So 1993, the Arusha Accords were signed, establishing some kind of power sharing agreement between them, but the implementation stalled. In 1994, on April 6, President Habyarimana's plane was shot down, sparking this genocide where over 800,000 Tutsis, some even believe up to 1 million, were massacred in 100 days. In 1994, the RPF forces captured Kigali, effectively ending the genocide and establishing a new government. So this was 100 days later. Post-genocidal recovery, there were, in 2000, Paul Kagame, leader of the RPF, became president, overseeing a period of economic recovery and development. In 2003, Rwanda adopted a new constitution, transitioning to a multi-party system. In 2010, Kagame wins re-election amid controversy over political freedom and human rights abuses. In 2014, Rwanda commemorates the 20th anniversary of this genocide, emphasizing reconciliation and national unity. Presently, Rwanda continues to pursue economic growth and development while facing challenges related to governance, human rights, and regional stability, as any country, but that's really the gist of the history. So I wanted to go into the book. So again, I read We Wish to Inform You That Tomorrow We Will Be Killed with Our Families, Stories from Rwanda by Philip Gourevitch. This book was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. This is an American Jewish writer who went and interviewed, he did investigative reporting, and he wrote these beautiful, poignant narratives of people who both partook in the killing, partook in, being accomplices to those people who partook in the killings, and also those people who were afflicted by the genocide of their family. So I thought it was just it's broken down into part 1 and part 2. The first part of the book really touches on the historical and political context leading up to the Rwandan genocide, and it talks a lot about the ethnic tension and how that came to be, and how colonialism really played a part in creating the tension between these ethnic groups. Part 2 examines the aftermath of the genocide, focusing on the survivors, the process of justice and reconciliation, and the efforts to rebuild Rwanda in the wake of the atrocities. It is so well written and just so powerful and moving. It really explains how genocides come to be, and how many external powers have influence over starting or stopping a genocide. It talks about this really important piece of history that I think a lot of people, at least in the West, are not informed about. So I would really, really recommend that you read this book, which is important and really powerful. And yeah, so let's move on to the fun facts. Number 1 would be that it is home to endangered mountain gorillas. So it's one of the 2 places in the world where you can have ethical safaris to see mountain gorillas. The other place would be Uganda. You do have to get a permit and go with a tour guide. But it's really awesome that they're doing these conservation efforts to make sure that mountain gorillas are safe and that their environments are protected. Number 2 would be that Rwanda is the most densely populated country in the continent of Africa. It is home to over 13 million people, which is similar to the population of the state of Pennsylvania. Number 3 is that they have no plastic bags there. So, despite its dense population, they are one of the cleanest countries in Africa, partly because the country banned the use of plastic bags in 2008. Tourists are not allowed to bring bags into the country, and stores will not give them out. Some common alternatives are reusable bags, paper bags, or biodegradable bags made from cassava or banana leaves. Number 4 is that there are Kigali car-free days. So on the topic of environmentally friendly, Rwandans keep their streets clean and work on cleaning their air. On the first and third Sunday of every month, major streets are closed to motorized vehicles, and they promote encouraging walking, biking, or engaging in other healthy activities. And last but not least, number 5, women make up more than half of parliament. In the 1990s, an average of 18% of Rwandan parliament's members were women. Now this has grown to today being 61% of women make up parliament. So thanks for joining me this week, and if you would like to see what country I get next, please follow my Instagram at Finding Frania. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you want to comment what you learned, feel free. Thanks so much. See you guys next weekend.